Hello again and welcome to another one of my overly long reviews of an action camera. This one is called the RD32, and in the interest of saving you some time I'm going to tell you at the beginning that this camera isn't worth buying. However, if you want to see why I've said this, and maybe you might disagree with me, carry on and watch the whole review, which starts now. As is common with most things that I buy, this came from Hong Kong, this came from Deal Extreme, and as you can see it's available in a few different colours and a few different prices, but about $77. Here's some of the specifications, and here's some more of the specifications, but I'll just hone in on a couple of the interesting things. It's waterproof, it does night vision, it's 1280 by 720 at 30 frames a second, and it's got a TV out on it, which is a bit unusual. But here's the problem, it records in motion JPEG AVI format again, which means it creates very large files and it drops more frames than a blind snooker player. For those that don't understand what I mean by drop frames, I'll explain further. The first thing I do is get a video clip and put it into VirtualDub on my PC, and then I click through it frame by frame to see if there really are 30 frames a second. So if we look at this clip here, look at the frame number at the bottom there, 3122. Right, now notice 3121 and 3122 are the same, as are 24 and 23. And then we click forward, 26 and 27 are the same. And go forward, 32 and 31 are the same. Now these are all supposed to be separate frames. Remember, 30 frames a second. Well, so far here we've gone through about 15 frames and we've found about 6 of them that are the same. And unfortunately this isn't a problem that's unique to this camera. I've reviewed quite a few other MJPEG HD cameras from China that all suffer from the same drop frame issue. So this will be the last MJPEG camera that I'm going to review, and from now on it's H.264 or nothing. Okay, with that said, it's on with the review. Let's have a look first off at what you get inside the box. Well, the big thing on the front there, it says it's 30 meters water resistant. At the top left it says RD32 Spearhead. I don't know if that's the full name, but I'm just going to call it the RD32. Depicted on the side of the box is one of the most common uses for this kind of camera, which is to attach it to the top of a bicycle helmet. And then on the side here are some of the headline features, some of which are that it has a vibration effect, so you can tell when you've pressed a button it vibrates slightly. It's got a 120-degree wide-angle lens, which is a good idea on a camera like this. It's got motion detection, which I'll demonstrate later, as well as night vision, which I'll also show you. And one of the things there, it says it's got a 3-hour battery life. It's more like 2 hours and a bit, and it takes about 2 hours and a bit to charge as well. It creates files that are 1.6 gigabytes in size every 20 minutes, then creates a new file. But anyway, let's carry on and look what's inside the box. Well, you get the camera itself, you get a charger, you get an AV lead, a clip for attaching it to a bicycle handlebar, but I think that would vibrate a little bit too much. You get a USB A to B lead, you get some instructions which are actually quite good and have got some nice pictures in there, a pouch, a disc for using it as a webcam, which I will not be demonstrating, an elastic strap which goes through the bottom here, which enables you to put the camera on top of a helmet, or a head I should say. I tried it on my motorbike helmet and it wasn't actually long enough to do that. Perhaps it's more designed to go around a bicycle helmet rather than a motorcycle one. Anyway, we'll have a look at the camera now and see how it operates. The construction of the camera is very nice. It's got this kind of rubber coating on the top here, screwed down with 4 screws at either side. And it's kind of a non-stick coating. On the bottom is the clip which I showed attaching to the bicycle handlebar mount before, but it does make the camera rather an odd shape, and unfortunately that clip can't be removed. On the front here is the lens behind a piece of plastic, and it's surrounded by 8 LEDs, 4 night vision and 4 normal white LEDs. On the back of the camera is a plug which just pulls out. Remember, the whole camera is designed to be waterproof, so that's got a rubber coating on there, and inside here you've got the USB socket for charging it, the micro SD card or trans flash slot at the top there, and I'll just get the micro SD out. Now I have to use a pair of tweezers. It's a little bit like playing Operation, because the way it's recessed inside the case means that you can't actually do it with your fingers, as demonstrated now by my fat sausage fingers. So I pulled it out with the tweezers here. Now the card that I'm using is a Kingston 8GB Class 10 micro SD HC card. It'll accept up to a 32GB, and the reason I showed you that is because I wanted to demonstrate that I'm using a Class 10, so that even if the camera is dropping frames, it's not down to me using a crappy card, it's down to the camera being crappy itself. So I should mention here, the plug on the back covers up the holes in the back here where the microphone is. So if you put the plug in, it muffles the microphone, so it recommends taking the plug out unless you're using it underwater, which of course does leave that stuff on the back exposed. Right, we'll switch it on, hold down the on button here, the blue light comes on. Now you won't have noticed this on the video, but the camera did vibrate slightly then to let me know that I'd switched it on. Now in this mode it'll stand by for 3 minutes and switch itself off unless I press a button. I'll show you the torch first of all. If you tap the front here, the 4 white LEDs come on, and then tap it again and the night vision ones come on that you can see in purple here, although those don't show up into the naked eye, it's just on the video camera. Tap it again and they're off. Now I'll switch it on to the next mode along to show you the different modes. So press the on button again, a red LED comes on, that means it's ready to take photos. And then we'll move it along again. This blue and yellow LED means it's in motion activation video mode, and then tap it again, it's motion activation photo mode, and then to tap it again it goes back into video standby. So we'll start a video recording. You just tap the start button here and the blue LED starts flashing to show that it's recording video. And then to stop it again you just tap the same button, and then to switch the camera off entirely you hold down the on off button, and there's a slight vibration again and the camera switches off. One really useful feature of this camera is that it offers a video out. The necessary lead comes packaged with the camera and you plug it into the AV socket on the back here and plug the phono leads into your television. Of course these are standard definition leads, so you're not going to get any HD footage. When it connects up it produces this nice pink LED to let you know that it's connected to the television. The on-screen menus are rather blocky and the playback of the video is incredibly jerky. So it's not really any use for that, but it's useful for getting into the menus. You hold down the middle button and you can adjust lots of different settings for the camera. The quality you can have fine, standard or economy. But how does that work out in the real world? Well, fine is about 21.2 megabits a second at 720p. Standard takes that down to 13.6 megabits a second, again at 720p, but economy takes it down to 720 by 480 at 8.4 megabits a second. And unfortunately enough, the camera still manages to drop frames in all 3 quality standards. Okay, on with the menus. The motion detection capture time can be set to 10 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. This is how long it will record after seeing motion and then stop again, waiting for more motion. You can also set the motion detection to auto delete when the card's full, i.e. using it as a security camera. You can't set the auto delete to work with a normal video, just with the motion detection. Usefully, you can change the time and date on the camera using the menus rather than having to go into a time set file. And also you can turn the time and date on or off, which is very useful because if you can see here, the time and date stamp is really very ugly indeed. Finally, here's the version of camera that I've got, which is version 30, apparently built on the 13th of May 2011. Right, well finally it's come time to show you some test footage from the camera. So let's have a look. Right, now just watch this for a minute and see if you notice anything unusual. Now bearing in mind that Prince isn't playing in town and there's no Barney convention on, so it makes me wonder why everyone's wearing purple. And it seems that the camera's night vision function turns dark colours into purple. Well, apart from this guy who seems to get away with wearing black, so I don't know how that's possible. But yeah, it's some kind of weird effect from the camera that changes a lot of different colours into purple. Now, I think if I was paying for this as a special effect, it would cost me an awful lot of money. But I didn't really want everyone wearing purple, so that's just really unusual. Anyway, next I took the camera out and attached it to my motorcycle helmet. Now, because of the design, it was rather hard to put anywhere other than directly on the top, so it makes you look like a kind of bit of a cyber Mohican. But anyway, we'll have a look at some of that footage now. Now I'll just mention that the footage that you're watching now is taken with the camera in standard mode. The previous footage of all the purple people was taken in fine mode. Now the purple thing's nothing to do with that, you can still see people are wearing purple here and the trees are purple as well, which is a bit unusual. But I just wanted to show you that there wasn't much difference between the quality of the two. The only difference really is that the standard mode produces a little bit more blocking. Now it does seem to drop slightly less frames in standard mode and also drops them more regularly. By that I mean more evenly spaced out, because in fine mode you can find that it'll drop 3 or 4 frames together, which means that there's quite a big jump in the video. Whereas in the standard mode it drops a frame here and there, maybe every 4 or 5 frames. So overall the video doesn't look quite as jerky. Now one thing that you can see from this video is that the 120-degree wide-angle lens really does do a very good job of showing all the road at once. And you should also notice that there's quite a lot of wind noise. This is because the cap's out. Ooh, that was a bad section there of drop frames, and that was in standard mode as well, so maybe I've just been making this whole thing up about the drop frames being better in standard mode. Anyway, we'll try the camera with the cap in the back and see what that sounds like. It sounds to me a bit like when you get your ears full of water after going swimming. Rather annoying in fact. But now we'll show you how the motion activation works. What I did is I put the camera in front of my other camera here so you can see the LEDs, and I've switched it into motion activation mode, which is the blue and yellow LEDs. I've gone out of the back door and we'll see how long it takes the camera to react to me coming through the door. Right, so here I come now. And look at the LEDs, there we go. The blue one is flashing already, which means it's already spotted me and started recording. So let's have a look at this from the point of view of the camera. Well, here I am. I've done a quick change into my favourite purple outfit. And this is the camera's point of view of me coming into the house. I've also tried it in the photo mode, which looks like this. Now there is a problem with this. It looked quite good, that. You thought, well, that might be quite good as a security camera. Well, think again, because there's a problem with it. The camera goes to sleep and switches itself off after 3 minutes with no activation, even on power, which is what I'm demonstrating now. I've plugged it into the wall, look at the timer at the top, 2 minutes 56, and it's switched off. So the camera's no good as a motion activation camera. If it only lasts for 3 minutes before turning itself off, what's the point? Anyway, it also does photos. Let's have a look. Here's a photo. Yes, it is rubbish. It takes terrible photos. They're at 2560 by 1920 resolution and are not worth bothering with. Now, let's go on to the night vision. Right, so here I am in the garage. We've got the strip lights on. And I'll just give you a quick look around with the lights on. You can see the bicycle up there, a shelf full of junk, another shelf full of junk. Okay, so now I'm going to switch the light off. So this is what the camera sees with no light at all. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. I suppose if I spin it around here you might just be able to see the alarm over there. Right, so now let's put on the light. So there you go, that's the torch on there. I don't know if you can make out the shelf of junk there. There's the bicycle, and I don't think you can probably see this, but down that end of the car. Back to the alarm again. So now we'll switch on, we'll switch on night vision now. Right, I suppose I've got bunny eyes now, but I don't know. We'll have a look round. There's the alarm again, the shelves of junk, and up at the top there is the bicycle. Spin it round to this end, that's the car, and then back round to the alarm again. So that's night vision. Not too sure how that works out. I can imagine it probably works out alright at this distance, but anything longer than maybe 5 foot, it's not really going to do much, I don't think. Wow, that guy was boring and a bit weird looking as well. Anyway, let's go on to night driving. Everyone always asks me how these things operate in the dark. Well, let's go and test it out. So I waited until it went dark, which is about 11 o'clock at the moment, so just think what trouble you're putting me to here. And I went out in the rain in my car and took some footage, and here it is. This is me going down the motorway, rather obviously, and we'll get all the hilarious things from the American people saying I'm driving on the wrong side of the road. Well, trust me, if I was driving on the other side of the road, I'd probably be dead right now. I think the camera's doing about as well as can be expected given the conditions. Of course, having a 120-degree wide-angle lens probably pulls a little bit more light into the lens to enable it to see a little bit better in low-light conditions. So I suppose there's quite a few people now thinking what would happen if he switched on the night vision. So here it is, and as you can see, I'm getting quite a lot of glare back from the car windscreen from the little LEDs on the front of the camera. I don't know if it's doing anything to improve the forward visibility, but the problem with using the LEDs or the night vision is that it restricts recording to only 1 minute before the camera switches itself off again anyway, so it's not really much use. One of the big headline features of this camera is that it's 30 meters water resistant. Now I can't test the full 30 meters because I haven't got my diving gear to hand right now, but I thought I'd just drop it in a bucket of water to test it out. And as you can see there, it floats, which is I suppose quite useful if you are going to use it in water. And let's have a look at this from the camera's point of view. I suppose this is what it would look like if you were being drowned by me, if I was wearing purple, which is very unlikely. The purple, obviously, not the drowning, that's quite possible. Anyway, here's a summary. Do you remember back 16.5 minutes ago when I said that this camera wasn't worth buying? Well, I'm going to stand by that opinion now. The camera's got a number of things wrong with it. First off, the shape of it is inconvenient. This bracket on the bottom and the buttons on the top means that the only way to mount it to things is to put it right on the top, which means that it sticks up a long way and looks rather stupid. The fact that the case is rubberized and it vibrates when you press a button and the lens on the front is 120 degrees are all good things, but unfortunately for everything that the camera does right, it does another thing wrong. The motion activation works well, but what's the point if the camera switches itself off after 3 minutes? The night vision works reasonably well at close quarters, but it restricts you to 1 minute of footage at a time. But ultimately, it's the jerky purple video, which is the reason why I can't recommend that anyone get the RD32 camera. However, as always, thanks for watching.